Everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss the state of play. So, unfortunately, right off the top, no Resident Evil. I'm very upset about that. That was genuinely the one thing where I was like, that's 100% guaranteed, absolutely gonna be there, I'd bet my life on it type stuff. And sadly, it was not. So, hopefully, that just means that Jeff gets to announce it at, during the official Summer Game Fest event. When he's on stage, then we get Resident Evil 9. That's the hope/cope that I'm going with right now. Sadly, no Resident Evil 9 at the state of play. But we did get Pragmata. After all this time, they even said it themselves, it is real, and it comes out next year. Now, did they show us much? Absolutely not. We still barely got anything. We know the little girl's name, at least it's like her designation and then what the guy names her. We still don't know his name. We still don't really know much of anything about the story. It's just they're on the moon in some facility and they're being attacked, and she helps him because she's an android and can hack the robots and all that stuff, and then he shoots and dodges, and it still looks cool. I like the visuals of it. I like the fact, it's a dude in a space, a combat space outfit, which looks kind of cool, admittedly. So I'm still curious, but super curious because we still didn't really get much from the actual trailer. It was like, okay, it's real, it's happening. We got a name, and we saw more, some actual combat, but also we barely saw anything of the game. So I hope we get to see more from Summer Games Fest. That would actually be pretty sweet if it was like, hey, and I figured this might be the case for certain things that pop up where it's like, hey, here's the official announcement or, reveal that it's actually existing. But then, we actually have the event kickoff, and it's like, yep, we also planned on showing you guys more footage there. Even if they didn't say it, hopefully that's what we get. So maybe we will, maybe we won't, but Pragmata exists. So either way, that was a great one. We got to see Pragmata. I'm very happy about that. So, one dream came true because it's real. As they said it themselves, it is real. So I was very happy with that. Another one that I thought was pretty neat was the Mortal Kombat collection. As soon as it popped up, I was like, that's Mortal Kombat. They showed the way they had the text. I was like, that's Mortal Kombat text. We're getting a Mortal Kombat collection. And so it's Mortal Kombat 1 through 4 and more. So I don't know, I would assume the and more doesn't include the Game Boy stuff because they actually show that in the trailer. Like, hey, we're literally letting you play the Game Boy ports of these games, which is wild. But I'm very curious what the and more is because it's 1 through 4. I would assume, I wish, I'd have to go back and look at it to see the exact ones, but I would assume it would be MK 1, 2, and 3, and then 3 Ultimate and stuff like that. 4 probably is going to have 4 Gold as well. And so I'm just curious because I would assume they're stopping at PS1. I don't think it'll go to the PS2 era, which would be absolutely phenomenal. And I do think that there were, I think there might have been 4 question marks, which would cover the PlayStation if I'm not mistaken. Because that would be Deception, Deadly Alliance, Annihilation. That's crazy because if it's 4, unless I'm missing one, the only other one that's left would be Shaolin Monks, which would be one of the most insane announcements ever. Shaolin Monks, I don't know if they'll be upscaled or anything. I was instantly going Shaolin Monks 4K 60, but that's not guaranteed. But it's probably a little guaranteed that it would at least be upscaled. Heck, Shaolin Monks 1080p would be different compared to, obviously it was the standard PS2 game. So I don't know if that's the case, but I'm pretty sure there were 4 question marks. So I don't think those question marks are going to be Mortal Kombat 4 Gold on the N-Gage, something ridiculous like that. So I would assume the question marks might actually end up being the PS2 titles because I can't think of what else could be there unless they did. That's what I'm trying to think because I wish I could remember exactly what was shown, but I just remember being holy crap, it's Mortal Kombat 1 through 4 and the different versions. But if the other 4 is hey, Mortal Kombat Trilogy or something like that, which I love, that was my Mortal Kombat back in the day because Mortal Kombat Trilogy was the one where it was here's every single character. That was, honestly, it was Mortal Kombat Annihilation, but for the 2D version of Mortal Kombat, where it was hey, here's just everything all together before they officially went to 3D. Mortal Kombat Trilogy was where it was at. It was everybody was in that game. So it was super cool. You could play as both different versions of Sub-Zero, and it was what's the point of this? Story-wise, it makes sense. So maybe that'll be in there. That does have some differences. Of course, every game will have slight updates and changes to combat and things like that. And plus, if you want to just play all the effing characters at one time, boom, here you go, Mortal Kombat Trilogy. So Who knows what'll end up happening with that, but it's very cool to have that collection coming out because it's Mortal Kombat. Also, it's very good for them with the end of MK1 and everything that happened with that as far as people not being too happy about that news. This was a great announcement for them to have in multiple ways. So it's definitely cool to see the Mortal Kombat collection coming out, and I'm very excited to see what those question marks are going to end up being. I would love it if it was everything up to PS2. That would be absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, unless I missed one, that would include Shaolin Monks. I'm pretty sure there were 4 question marks. And that would be, Deception, Deadly Alliance, Annihilation. And those are the games in order. And then the other one that's the outlier would be Shaolin Monks, which that would be the most important one to have if I'm being completely honest. As much as I would love to get some Combat Heart in HD, I would love to play Shaolin Monks with multiplayer online. That game is so good, it needs to come back. So maybe, I kind of doubt it, but maybe. I don't know. I just kind of doubt it because I don't think that's even... It's hard to remember the licensing because, Mortal Kombat is so tied to Midway for such a long time. I don't think even Midway was involved when it was Shaolin Monks. I think it was like another company that helped them do that one. So I can't really remember. It was like Midway and somebody else. So I don't really remember who had like the publishing rights. Oh, crap. What if they put Mythologies in there? I didn't think about that. If we're sticking with more PS1 titles, they put like Mythologies and Special Ops in there. That would suck. I completely forgot about those. But those are 2 PlayStation games that if they wanted to, they could be like, hey, Mortal Kombat Collection, Sub-Zero Mythologies. I really hope they don't. They wouldn't. Even if they suck though, it is a part of the history. I don't know. No, I forgot about that. I completely forgot about those 2. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see about that. But the Mortal Kombat collection in general is still pretty cool. So I was very happy to see that. Then we got Neo 3. That looked awesome. I played the first one, or I played the demo to the first one, which was 100 million years ago. And it was fun. I thought it was fun. I probably played the demo to the second one as well. And I think both those games are cool. I just never ended up buying them. I know that there's like a collection where you can get the first and second game, like complete edition or whatever. So I'm sure that'll be super cheap coming up with Neo 3, actually releasing. They're going to put those first 2 games on sale for a very steep discount, which will be nice. Or better yet, it might even pop up on the Epic Game Store for free and you get both of them. I think the first one was on there for like a long time ago and I might actually have the first one, but I don't know, they might both pop up, so that would be pretty cool. I thought it looked awesome. I love the idea of the samurai ninja aesthetic where you can swap in between the 2 different versions of your character. So that's super cool. So you have 2 different play styles. And it was really crazy. Like some of the ninja moves, he was like a spinning top in the air. Like he was flipping and spinning for a long time. And then he flew down to the enemy and cut him. And I was like, oh, these moves are going to be really ridiculous in this one. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, I always thought the first 2 games looked really cool and I just never ended up picking them up. But this one definitely looks nice. I'll probably still get the first 2 games first. So add it to the backlog, automatic, preemptively add that one to the backlog. It's pre-ordered for the backlog as of now. But another game I'd like to talk about, Romeo is Dead. As soon as that junk showed that guy transforming, because at first it was like, okay, this is a weird looking thing. And then he goes to the door and the dude's just like ripped apart. I was like, what the F is this? Like, that was not what I was expecting. And then it gets even crazier when he puts a drill into the guy's eyeball and it looks gross and just wild. And then once they did that transformation sequence where like he had like arms popping out and his body was changing, I was like, oh, this is Grasshopper, because it looked like Killer is Dead. And I was like, yeah, I'm excited for this. So as soon as that happened, I was like, Grasshopper. And I was super happy to see it. So another Grasshopper game is kicking up and I'm very excited for that. And we'll see what ends up happening with it. But I really enjoy all of their games. No More Heroes is definitely one of my favorites. No More Heroes 3, not so much, unfortunately, but I love the first 2 games for sure. Killer is Dead is really great. Lollipop Chainsaw I love. Killer is Dead is the one that it really looks like as well. Like No More Heroes 3 kind of has the aesthetic, but it's a little bit, I don't even know how to really explain it, but No More Heroes 3 kind of looks like it, but No More Heroes Travis Strikes Back looks more like Romeo is Dead, if that makes any sense. And if you look up the game Killer is Dead, which is also a fun game that sadly never got a sequel, because the way they ended it, I was like, oh, seems like it's gonna, have a teaser or something. And then he never went back to that game. And I was like, well, that blows, because that ended on a crazy cliffhanger. But it looks just like that one. I feel like it looks more like that than No More Heroes 3 does, even though it's more recent. But I'm excited for that. And, Suda51, he does crazy violent video games. And you could tell that just from the absolute insanity of the trailer. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Those games are just crazy and cool action games. And it's like, yeah, that's for me. Like every time, like if Suda makes one, it's for me. So I'm definitely gonna be getting that game eventually. Once again, it'll come out eventually, maybe. I love the trailer. It was like in 2026, maybe. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm very excited to have that game come out and see how it really plays. But it definitely looks more, especially like, and it's so hard to explain this. If you've never played Killer is Dead, I'm telling you, it looks like identical to that. Even like the combat aesthetic, I was like, some of these just hit effects make me think of Killer is Dead. So definitely check that game out because it's super fun. And you can also get like the complete edition and stuff for super cheap at this point. But that game's really fun, and I feel like this is gonna be fun. And of course, No More Heroes is fun. Lollipop Chainsaw, like I said, was fun. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's gonna be really good. But that I'm excited for. That was a really nice surprise as far as like a new IP coming out. I never would have thought like, oh yeah, Grasshopper. Definitely caught me off guard. But another brand new IP that I thought looked really cool was Tides of Tomorrow. And that's the weird multiplayer story game where it's like, hey, you can follow behind someone else that's already played the story, and you can, and I saw some stuff, after the state of play, so I got some more information on it. And it's like, you don't just follow what other people did, they can actually leave stuff behind for you. Kind of like how they showed in the trailer where they had like a former player threw a guy in the water, and then that guy came up to you and he was like, hey, can you please help me out? And he was like drenched in water. So I don't know how it's gonna work, but if they pull it off, I think that game is gonna do gangbusters, because that's an insane concept to be like, hey, not only do we share this story and you can follow someone's play style and see what they do, they can also leave resources behind, or they can screw stuff up or blow something up that you might have needed, and then you're forced to do something different. So I don't know how that's gonna work. It seems insane to pull that off, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see how that works. And I think with the way that they showed the trailer, they have different sections. I think every time you play, you'll follow a different person. So that should be cool. I hope it really works out that way, because that seemed amazing. I was like, I am super excited for this game. Also, curious what the game's really gonna play like or even look like, because that entire thing looked like it was completely CG and had nothing to do with actual gameplay. I was like, I don't think any of this is how the game is going to play or look, fluidity wise and stuff. So we'll see. We're at that point. You never really know. It's super hard to tell, but I don't remember if it said like, hey, this was captured on console or anything like that. So I don't remember if it said it was gameplay, but I don't think it is. I think that was like fully CG, but I'm sure the game will be super close to that. But I'm curious. I'm very curious. I hope that one works out, because that'll be very exciting and something that I genuinely don't think it would be something we've ever had in gaming. At least not on a grand scale like that, where you just follow, it could just be a randomized person that you follow and stuff like that. So I hope that pans out very well, because it's a very exciting concept for sure. So I hope that works. I also thought it was VR at first, because I think it showed up like right after Thief, or it was like another, I'm pretty sure it was right after Thief. So I thought it was another PSVR game, which wouldn't be bad for me personally, because I actually have the PSVR too. So, I would have been happy if that was the case, but I don't think it is, because they didn't say that. And sadly, the only thing that really had like PSVR was like Luminous in the very beginning, and then Thief, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna buy the Thief game. Like, that's cool, but I'm not gonna buy Thief. So, sadly, not much for me having a PSVR 2, but I hope Tides of Tomorrow works the way that it seems, because it looks really cool. I hope that concept works out and we get to have like a crazy experience. Also, Astrobot, absolutely amazing. 5 more levels. I can't remember her name. Atsu from Ghost of Yote is in there, so they showed her specialty thing. And then we got like 4 other characters, but those are gonna be a nice little surprise. I'm very excited for that. I still have 1 level that I have to beat for the challenge levels, because I had like 2 to go, and I got 1 of them, and the other one is like just kicking my butt right now. So I have to beat that one, but we got 5 more challenge levels coming out and 5 more characters, so that's really cool. And it turns out, letting my daughter play over and over again, getting a bunch of coins, was not a complete waste, because I'm like, I'm gonna have an overabundance of coins because there's nothing else to buy, and now I got 5 more characters to buy the stuff for, so that's very nice. But great to see more Astrobot stuff coming out, and who knows, maybe they'll update it, going through to the end of the year, and then they'll officially be like, all right, we're taking a break, and then, they hit us with the Astrobot 2. which I hope is like that Christmas level, because that Christmas level was absolutely amazing. And I was like, this is what the second game needs to be, where you get like multiple powers in one single level. That's what the second game needs to do, for sure. They need to have like multiple powers per level, because that was such a different experience from any of the levels in the game, where it's like, hey, here's your one power, and then it's a very linear, straightforward, here you go level. And then the Christmas thing was like, here's just one level, and you kind of solve it like a puzzle, where it's like, okay, well, you unlock this ability, and if you go to this part of the map, you can unlock this ability using the first one you got, and so now you have a second ability that can take you way across the map. And I was like, this is really, really fun. It literally used every single ability in the game to unlock different parts of the same level. And I was like, this for sure is how the second game needs to go. Not every level has to be that, but they need a couple of those levels in there for sure. Because I was like, this is actually super fun, and it's like a, you know, I can't say open world, but it's a, you know, a big level puzzle, like the, you know, it's a puzzle that you solve yourself. So I thought that was really fun. So I hope the second game is definitely a lot like that, because that was a really cool level. So great to see more Astrobot. I love that game. Game of the year, even though I know that made people mad. Effing amazing, effing amazing. Also, and here's something to go back to the Resident Evil of it all. Resident Evil 2 and 3 come into the classic catalog. I hate that they do not make these games available to purchase, because, and I mentioned this at some point months ago, my PS3 died on me. So sadly, I don't have my PS3. I had Resident Evil 2 and 3 downloaded on there because I was like, well, I didn't have RE3 anymore, and my Resident Evil 2, my disc is a little messed up. Like, one of the discs is messed up. So I was like, cool, let me get my classic Resident Evil games. Like, you know, my Resident Evil 1 still works. I bought Resident Evil 2, and I downloaded Resident Evil 3 as well. And then it was like, yeah, you can't transfer that to PS4. And then when my PS3 died, it was like, well, I just don't have those games anymore. And then they bring them to the classic catalog with 1 and now 2 and 3, and you still just can't buy them. I don't understand what the deal is with that, but they're only if you have like PS Premium, I think, is where you get the catalog, classic catalog from. So that's great for people that have that and are Resident Evil fans. It sucks that they didn't work out some sort of weird system to just let us purchase those games, but maybe that's because they're working on trying to sell it to us. We've been waiting for a million years, physical trilogy collection. That's all we need. So maybe it's happening, I don't know. But it was nice that the games are on there. And also, I thought 100% right after that. I was like, oh, here we go. It's about to happen. I don't know why my thing is going off like that. But I'm like, oh, Resident Evil 2 and 3 in the collection. Here we go, Resident Evil 9. And then it didn't happen. And as soon as that PlayStation logo hit, I was like, oh, it's not happening. Like, I was like, PlayStation Studios logo hit at the end of the, like halfway through, I guess. I was like, yeah, that's it. No, sadly, no RE9. So, but RE2 and 3, that's definitely good. We have the Ghost of Yote State of Play in July, so they gave us a little hint of that. I know some people were bothered by it, where it was like, oh, that was a waste of time. But I'm like, I thought it was cool because it was nice to know that that was happening. Also, it was like 10 seconds. Like, what are the extra 10 seconds gonna really do in the State of Play? You know, like it's weird to call it a waste of time when it's like it was like a 10-second, you know, thing. Or I mean, it may have been like 20 to 30 seconds, but it really wasn't that long that it was like, oh my God, why did they do that? That was so stupid. It's like, hey, it's just in there just to give you a little hype. I understand we didn't get to see anything, so I understand people being like, oh, that kind of sucks. But if they're saving it for a State of Play where, you know, it's the full deep dive, the last one I think was like 30 minutes long or something when it was, you know, just Ghost of Yote. So I was already looking forward to that, and I thought this one might end up being just a full Ghost of Yote State of Play if it had come after. Like, once I found out it was before the event actually took place, I was like, oh, this is definitely gonna, you know, it's not gonna be Ghost of Yote. It's gonna have all the epic announcements that we saw, and some of the smaller ones. And here's one that was a little smaller. Bloodstained getting a sequel. I played the first one, and I got to a point where I got so lost and so annoyed with it that I just quit. And then I was like, I'm just gonna watch it, and because I played through like a decent chunk of the game, and I was so stuck, and I also was kind of rushing through because it was when I had like my trial for Game Pass, and I was like, all right, you know, it was fun, but it wasn't fun enough where I was like, I'm loving this experience. And then once I got lost, and it was like, no, you have to just know where to go and remember. It was like, it's classic. I didn't realize how classic it was. It was legit one of those situations where it's like, if you don't remember that random thing that guy said, or that random character might be important, you're just lost. And I was like, oh, okay, F it. And then I just watched the rest of the game because I was like, I'm not playing the rest of this anymore. But it was cool. It was definitely fun to play. And so, the sequel looks pretty interesting, multiple characters. It seems like you could customize your character a bit more. So I know there are people that are super excited. So Bloodstained is getting a sequel. Then you also have Hiragami, which is a cool origami action game. I'm more excited for that if I'm being totally honest. But I thought that looked really cool. So I was like, all right, I think eventually, I might end up picking that game up. Baby steps, we finally got an update for that and an actual release date. I'm not going to buy that game in any way, shape, and or form, but I'll definitely watch people play and I will laugh at, the difficulty of that game. I'm not gonna buy it myself, but it looks funny. I think it will be entertaining to watch people play through it, so I'm looking forward to that. However, Ninja Gaiden, also a smaller game, but I'm buying that one. Maybe not day one, but Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, that and Shinobi are gonna be like back to back for me. Those are gonna be my big ninja games. I'm very excited for that. It looks really good. So, Ninja Gaiden looked fantastic. I'm excited for that one to come out. Then there's Sea of Remnants, which is actually a free-to-play game. I didn't realize that when, from the trailer, I couldn't tell that, but it's a free-to-play game, and I'm really curious how that's gonna work because it seemed like it was like an open world thing. Then it had like RPG elements because, it had the numbers pop up. So I was like, okay, is it turn-based? Because that's how it looks. But with it being free to play, I'm like, is it a free to play turn-based? Is it a free to play pirate gacha game? I don't really know right now, but it's free to play. So it's probably more in the gacha territory. So we'll see how that pans out. But it looked interesting. For sure, like the gameplay actually looked like it would be fun. It seemed, like many gacha games, it's like, hey, it's fun to pick up and play, and then you see how much you like it, and you stick with it. Like I personally played Zenless Zone Zero. That is the first and only gacha game I've ever played, and I love that one. I haven't spent a single dollar on it because I never will, but I love playing it. I keep up with it, and heck, today, as of recording, actually, I'm gonna try to edit and upload this today as well. So on June 5th, today is the 1-year anniversary of Zenless Zone Zero. So we're gonna be getting officially Zenless Zone Zero 2.0. So I'm looking forward to that. But a pirate gacha game, that's fascinating. But we'll see what happens when it all comes out. But that's Sea of Remnant, so I'm excited to see what ends up happening with that. And then the other Sea game that we got was Sword of the Sea, which is made by the people that did Journey and Pathless and Abzu and all those games. Looks really cool. It looked a lot like Journey, which was funny because they had so many areas that were like sand, but it looks really cool. Bunch of animals just floating around you and stuff. I love the design of the character, and I'm a sucker for a cool gold sword, and it looked really sweet. And it's also a skateboard, and he was doing cool tricks as well. And Tony Hawk, pro Journey 2. So I'm looking forward to that. Once again, probably won't be picking it up day one, but it looks nice. It looks very nice. So the games are looking good. The state of play itself was really fun. And then there are a couple other things. Quickly, James Bond. We'll see. We'll see. They hid the face. I don't know why they did that. I guess they just wanted to be like, here's our James Bond. I didn't think it was that big of a reveal. Some people have mentioned that James Bond looks like a specific actor. He looks like young Dexter, apparently. That might actually be that guy. I don't know. I was like, okay, like a lot of people. And it's not just because Uncharted is a famous franchise. He really does look like a young Nathan Drake. Like 100%. If you play Uncharted 3 and you look at young Nathan Drake, it's like, he looks like him, but a little bit older. Like that was probably preteen. This looks like teenage Nathan Drake, like genuinely. So it was a little weird seeing that, and I'm like, it's not just because I like Uncharted. It's because the dude actually kind of looks like young Nathan Drake. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But we'll see what happens. It's made by the Hitman people, so it's probably going to be amazing all in all. But it kind of just looked okay to me. So that's kind of my thoughts on James Bond. Silent Hill, however, I was already excited for this one. Silent Hill F, I'm still, like a lot of people, I'm like, all right, I'm not the biggest Silent Hill dude, but I know Silent Hill is specifically a place in the United States. I'm curious about the story, of why it's set in Japan, but it looked amazing. It looked super creepy, and I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I was already more excited because, I'm a sucker for, my Japanese horrors and stuff. And I was like, oh, this might be it might be a day one. If I'm being totally honest, that might be a day one purchase. And I believe they said it comes out in September. It might be happening. It could potentially be a day one. I know everybody said Silent Hill 2 was amazing, the remake and stuff. And I wish I was able to enjoy Silent Hill. I wish that HD remaster that they had, or the HD collection from the PS3 era, I wish that didn't suck. I was super hyped for that, and then everybody was like, yeah, they changed this, they lost these files, they effed up the fog. I was like, man, I thought that was my moment. I was like, finally, it's my time. and it was not my time. So one day I'll end up just buying it off of the PlayStation Store, because I'm pretty sure you can at least get the first one off of there. That was one of those PS3 moments, the PS1 Classic deal. So maybe I can do that on my PS5. But one day I'll actually be able to get into Silent Hill. But Silent Hill F, I think that's happening. That might be a day one. And then, of course, the end of the State of Play. And who would have seen this one coming? Of all the endings for a State of Play to be like, here is our one last thing, our final game, who the F would have been like, hey, fighting game community, Marvel community, here you go. Like, I was losing my mind. I know that this is so specific because, and it's not ultra specific because it's Marvel, so it definitely gets a lot more people in, as just in general because it's a Marvel game. But a Marvel Arc Systems game, anime Marvel 4v4, I was losing my effing mind. I'm looking at 4 characters versus 4 characters. They're just all on screen. They all got crazy combo moves. The visuals look great. I like the costumes. I'm curious what we're gonna get if they're gonna have alternates, because there is literally a thing called the mangaverse in the Marvel comics where it's literally just characters from the mangaverse. It's like manga versions. So I was kind of shocked that the Spider-Man had his own style, because I was like, oh, hey, mangaverse Spider-Man, like we know what that looks like. So hopefully we get some other costumes in there. I'm looking forward to it. Cannot wait for the reveals of other characters, but it looks amazing. Arc Systems always, like, their visuals are top notch. So I couldn't believe it. I was losing my mind. I was like, holy crap. So obviously it works for me. And of course, the amazing jokes that have been online within the fighting game community, like the dream is dead, because it's not Marvel versus Capcom 4, it's just Marvel 4. It's Marvel Fighters. Marvel Heroes is coming back, basically. So who knows? And it would be, everyone's saying it's the other side of the coin and the other joke. But if Capcom did genuinely know that it wasn't happening and they were like, fine, we'll just make our own Capcom fighting game, things would shatter. Like, minds would melt, mine included, because if Marvel is like, hey, here's just Marvel superhero fighting game, and then Capcom was like, okay, here's just the Capcom character fighting game, I would be in heaven. That would be like a fighting game community dream. It would be the weirdest thing ever, because, of course, Marvel versus Capcom, but to have them both do their own games would be absolutely insane, and also absolutely amazing. So at this point, everyone's saying like the dream is dead. We probably won't be getting MVC4, but if we got just Capcom by itself and just Marvel by itself, that might be even better. So who knows? Capcom might do it. I would love to see like all of my Resident Evil characters in a fighting game. I want to see Claire get, some fighting moves. I want to see it. I hope Capcom does it. I highly doubt it'll happen, but it would be the craziest thing in the world if it was like, surprise, Marvel has their own fighting game, and now Capcom has their own fighting game too. But that was an amazing final announcement in my humble opinion. So I was super happy. But once again, if it's a fighting game, you kind of have, you have your niches, and that's just the way it goes. So I loved it, and we'll see what happens going forward, but I cannot wait for more information from that game. And also, and I have to say this, Robbie Reyes as the Ghost Rider representation for this game is one of the greatest things ever. Robbie Reyes is my Ghost Rider. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is what really did it for me, but I was like, yes. And there's, a bunch of people are saying the same thing online, like, thank goodness it is Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. So I'm super happy. I love the State of Play. I thought it was fantastic. I wish we got, like I said, of course Resident Evil would have been my number one. I'd be screaming from the mountaintops. But like I said, whether it's hope or cope, maybe Jeff will do it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. We got Resident Evil 9. It's gonna come up. It's gonna happen. It's gotta be this weekend. I really hope. But those are my thoughts on the State of Play. I would love to know your thoughts on it, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you felt overall. Like I said, for me personally, I really enjoyed it. I thought we had some great announcements. It was a phenomenal ending game for me. I know that's not the same for everybody, because like I said, especially for it being a fighting game, even if it's Marvel, just fighting games in general, that's still a niche. It's still a niche. But man, that's gonna do gangbusters. That's gonna go crazy. But I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, we'd love to know your thoughts on the State of Play, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.